lovely to be here. A lot of the themes today have been around people, and what I love about HOSPACE, you get the technology theme, you get the people theme, and bringing them both together is what we do, I think, very successfully, what Jane's done really well this year and last year. To continue the people theme, we've got a really interesting guest today, Gabriel, and we're going to sit down in a minute because I will stand up. I know you're not used to sitting down, but sit down.
Sure.
There was a really interesting comment in this week's Caterer you may have seen on Monday about Thomasina Myers, who's the co-founder of Oaxaca. And Thomasina was quoted as saying that this week she's turning down quite a few bookings because of the lack of staff. And Oaxaca, as you may know, trades largely in central London. And what's been great about bringing Gabriel here today is that we've got someone who's worked in central London for the past 10 years.
The past 10 years, yes.
Which is quite an achievement with a brand called Lima. And what Gabriel's going to talk about in the next few minutes is about some really practical things that he's done, latterly certainly, about managing and keeping good people in place. Before we start, can you just give us a quick introduction to Lima? Because you're a Venezuelan.
Correct.
How come 10 years ago you set up a Peruvian brand in London? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Chris. Basically, the story started 10 years ago. In 2010, actually, we did a trip to Peru, a family trip. Fell in love with the country and its cuisine. And at the time, I was living in Paris, visiting my brother in London. We were enjoying the buzzing restaurant scene here. And we spotted a gap in the market. We saw that there wasn't any Peruvian restaurants in the capital. So we decided to work on the idea more seriously and opened Lima in 2012 in Fitzrovia, our first site. So in 2013, we gained a Michelin star, which we were very surprised about it. And it was very exciting because it was the first Peruvian concept to do so.
So first Peruvian brand with Michelin star. We've got a couple of photos here. Just to show how you did it with your food. What's that product?
This is basically our seaweed ceviche. Well, the fish can change, but the tiger's milk, which is a marinade of basically vegetables and lime juice. You can color it with different types of chili. So that's our traditional seaweed ceviche. You see some corn on the side. So we serve that in the restaurant since we opened.
And here's one more. And that is?
That's called char siu pancetta. So Peruvian cuisine is very interesting because it has quite a bit of influences from Asia, China, Japan. This one is inspired from the Chinese influence from the type of cuisine. And we have it at the restaurant as well at the moment.
Can you do tonight, 360?
I'll do my best, yeah.
Right, so that's a really good introduction. What happened next after your first restaurant? 2000.
So we opened our second site in 2014 in Covent Garden. Mm-hmm. It's slightly different, more casual concept. And in 2017, we opened a franchise restaurant in Dubai.
Okay. A few minutes ago, Gabriel asked me what the C word was. So anyway, how did it get on in COVID?
Thank you for clarifying that, yeah. It was obviously horrific for us, for every other operator here in the room. So we ended up doing the finish-at-home meal kits, which we called Lima Box. That was good to keep the chef busy and also motivated. For the staff, obviously, it wasn't easy. We did that, and also it gave us a bit of time to reassess what we were doing and what we wanted to do for our 10-year anniversary. So we ended up deciding to do a full refurb and a relaunch of our flagship store in Fitzrovia.
We've got a couple of pictures here. That's the back of the restaurant. And there's the front. So you've now got really back on track with the business. I gather, obviously, not just you, but so many others had real issues with staffing in COVID. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've heard a lot today about the staffing issues. I mean, it's no secret. So, it's been super difficult. I think at some point in 2021, we were reopening. We were struggling to open the sites, actually, because of the staffing. So we sat as a management team, came up with a plan. I think the first thing we tried to identify is how can we reduce the need for staff as much as possible. That was the first thing that we...
And so looking first of all at the need rather than about new staff or existing, did you get any savings from that overview of existing?
Yeah, when you get into the details, it's pretty impressive what you can find. I mean, I think to give you a few examples, in our Covent Garden restaurant, we identified that by investing more in prep and production, we could actually improve, be more efficient, basically. So we physically expanded the kitchen, invested in more equipment, and we managed to reduce the kitchen brigade for one full-timer.
So take one person out?
That one person out, yeah.
Person.
Correct, yeah. Okay. Another thing, when we change the menu, which we do quite often, we look into every single item of the menu and look at the staffing requirements behind. And that's super important, I think nowadays especially. I think a lot of operators also, what they did was, we were a seven-day operation before COVID. Now, well, during COVID, we went from 4.5 to then 5. Now we're back to 6. So obviously that helps with the scheduling. And the final thing is, I think it's obvious, but it's it's looking detailed at the scheduling and then the rotas versus trading patterns and see how we can save. We managed to save quite a bit of hours on a weekly basis.
And how much roughly do you think per week?
20, 30, maybe a part-timer, basically.
Okay, so it really helps. So having looked at the processes and methodologies you've got, you took out quite the need side of it. In terms of supply of staff, how did you work with some of your existing team? How do you keep them? How do you motivate them? How do you keep them going? Here's some picture of some of the team at the moment.
Yeah, so basically I think the last panel was mentioning, of course, about how important, and it's basically our main resource and the most important. So yeah, I think first even if we're a small business, we pay competitively. We include a bonus scheme based on the performance of the company as a whole, and basically everyone's included in that. I think the second thing that we do is we try to cross-train as much as possible. So
try to what?
Cross-train.
Cross-train, okay.
Cross-train, yeah.
Yep.
As much as possible. So when we're short for whatever reason, then they can help between teams. I think the third thing, even if we have a strong management team, we try to be as non-hierarchical as we can. So for example, when we have every so often 4 or 5 new starters, I sit with them. We try some of the menu items. We get to know each other in a bit more of a casual manner, and I keep interest as they progress with us. And I think the final thing, it's little things, and they might sound a little bit cliche, or we try people to really feel like family, feel at home. We spend a lot of hours together, so we do put some effort or quite a bit of effort in staff meals. Again, it's a simple thing, but everyone sits before the service and enjoys a meal front and back of house. And I think that makes a difference. People appreciate that. And
so you cross-train between front of house and the kitchen?
Yes, correct, yeah. I mean, they're not going to become, the front of house might not become experts in the kitchen, but they're able to do some tasks.
So basic level, and the same with kitchen into front of house?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And they all sit down together before service?
Yeah, we try to do it as a regular thing, yeah.
And who chooses the food?
So the chefs come up with the menus, and obviously we try not to spend too much, but we do put some effort, and the food is actually quite good. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So that's existing staff. You talked about process. What about attracting and retaining new staff? How have you gone about that in the last year or two?
Yeah. So obviously I guess that's the challenge for everyone at the moment. When there's a management vacancy, we try to promote from within. If there's no one that fits the position, we have worked with an agency on a retainer basis that has worked quite successfully for us. It's not cheap, but again, investing in people is important.
And just on that point, with an agency, do you do it by the person, or do you do it more on a retainer basis?
Retainer basis, yeah. So it's good because it's you have 7 positions to fill, or 5 or 3. It's a month. And they look for it. Maybe they don't fill all of them, but we found that it probably works better than on a commission basis per position.
And that's retainer based. Sorry, yes.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So the second point, we try to tap into the network of existing staff that work sometimes really well. Sometimes we try to obviously recruit locally, which I think is maybe the most difficult, and what everyone's facing, all the challenges that everyone's facing. And we've done, Jane mentioned before, the visa scheme. the government visa scheme, the skilled worker visa. We applied. One of the panelists before mentioned it. It's a costly exercise. It takes time, and it's not easy. And especially for a small business like ours. However, it does bring loyalty and longevity. We did, for example, we did in our business 3 Philippine nationals. Filipinos, yeah. That used to work with us in Dubai, in a restaurant in Dubai. We brought them for the front of house, and we recruited 3, as I mentioned before, we have very specific requirements for Peruvian cuisine skills. We brought 3 Peruvian nationals from that were living and working in Dubai.
Okay.
Sorry, in Spain. Yeah.
Okay, so you brought them as well?
Yes.
And they're still with you?
Yeah, they are.
So would you recommend the visa scheme? Or it's...
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think it's not for the more junior roles. I think it has to be more managerial roles, and it takes time. 2 months to 4 months, I would say, from start to end. You could do a quicker way, paying a bit more, but it does take time. But then you have those people, and you know that you have them for a good time.
And they're with you, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So looking quickly at the overview of that, you're a smallish business. It's a family-run business.
Correct.
Do you think that what you do can be translated for some of the bigger businesses in the room? I mean, what does it work for everyone, or bits of it, or what?
I wouldn't say entirely, because we're, again, a small business is more agile, I guess, and quicker to take decisions and implement them. But I think there are some things or some ideas that could be implemented for larger and more diverse businesses. I think there's no one silver bullet. I think it's the sum of different things that really start making a difference for the culture and the staff. And I think ultimately it translates into having a lot of a positive attitude and a lot of persistence, despite the challenges that we're all facing, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, so far so good. 2023 looking okay?
So far so good.
Okay. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much for that. Great to get your input, and also to see how it works in restaurant in central London, 2 restaurants, central London.
Correct.
And clearly going successfully. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.